There are three things in human life which are important. The first is to be kind. The second is to be kind. And the third is to be kind. The animal rights movement is all about being honest in our dealings with others, or it should be, not just saying what's expedient or comfortable or convenient. When people say they're going to retire to go fishing, that is not a benign activity. That is hunting in the water. When we say eating meat is linked to impotence, that's true. Of course, that may not be a bad thing. And we say that cheese does cause zits, and that beer is better for you than milk. Animal rights people, of course, find it inexcusable to accept that you can treat animals badly just because they happen to be different. If you cut animals, don't they bleed? If you tickle animals, don't they giggle? We tell our children might doesn't make right, and then we turn around and throw it all out the window, all these principles like might doesn't make right, because it's convenient for us to do something different. That's why I think we should be proud that our movement is working very hard to cast aside all prejudice, all injustice, not just those injustices and prejudices that apply to our own species. There is absolutely no trick to looking back on the great injustices of our time. And by that I mean the obvious ones, the Holocaust, slavery, and condemning them. We understand that. We got that. There's no trick to going along with the status quo and not rocking the boat. The trick is always to look at what we're doing today as if we were some point in the future looking back and figure out what the oppressions and the injustices are that we're committing today and to get them out of our lives. You have to rock the boat if you want to make waves, and you have to be honest if you want change. Most people in this room understand that slavery is not over in America or in the Western world or in the world in general. The animals are today's slaves. And yet, what little pittance do they want? They don't want the right to vote. They don't need the right to do anything except have our respect for them as other nations, for that is what they are. They're not objects, they are anima, they're life, they're like us. And the greatest respect of all that we can afford them is just to leave them alone. PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, is known for doing what, to some people, are fairly outrageous things. I believe we're like Dante Rossetti, who is the old painter, who used to be chided for being told not to make a spectacle of himself. And he used to say, well, if I make a spectacle, people stare, and then I have the attention for my serious work. So forgive us, please, for all the embarrassing stunts, the crazy antics, and the stupid tricks. What we realize is that the press, God bless them, are like your cat. That if you speak seriously to them, they pay absolutely no mind. But if you waggle your finger under the door, they know it's just your finger, but they have to come over and have a look. So, we know our work's a very serious issue. Please don't ever think that we don't. But by using humor and by being provocative, we get thousands of people who would otherwise not give two hoots to take a look. And people who won't look at the gore cannot help but look at the gorgeous. Animal rights is everywhere these days. Everything you pick up. And it's because people are actively working to make it so. It's not just some sort of fluke. Times are certainly changing. It used to be that milk was a sacred cow, and I don't mean that as a pun. No one thought about the mother cow. There are no retirement homes for her. She was kicked and beaten down the same ramp the beef cow goes down. And nobody thought about the connection between the veal calf and the dairy industry. That in order to have the dairy industry, you have to steal the milk that is meant for that calf. All people used to think was that milk is healthy. And it's wonderful that that has changed. You know the latest edition of Dr. Spock's Baby and Healthcare, #1 bestseller, has an apology from him in it for ever having recommended milk for children. And to add to a host of new studies, they seem to come out all the time, showing that that mucousy muck is linked to everything from childhood onset diabetes to colic, ear infections, even crib death. Last week, a study from Glasgow's Royal Hospital for Sick Children found that breastfeeding can reduce a baby's risk of childhood obesity by 30%, and we have an epidemic of childhood obesity in this country. 2 weeks ago, the medical journal The Lancet reported that cattle proteins have been found in chicken feed and actually in the tissue of chickens in supermarkets, meaning that there now is the possibility that mad cow disease in its avian form can be passed on through chicken consumption. This is in The Lancet, not an animal rights publication, but the medical journal. I absolutely adore chickens. I used to take in rescued hens and call them my girls, and they were always very special to me. They had individual personalities. They would play their sort of World Cup form of soccer with melon balls and make dust bowls for themselves to bathe in. And they would roost in the trees, and they would go out sunbathing, flapping their wings, just like people on the beach in their bikinis. And they were just full of personality, preening for the rooster, some chatty, some not. They certainly had as much personality as any dog, and probably more than some people I've met. I think I loved them extra because I was really riddled with guilt that my favorite dish used to be roast chicken. And you can be cured of eating chicken if you take a ride at the end of this conference, if you're up for it, to the Purdue processing plants. That's what they call their slaughterhouses, which are just 50 miles away from here, if that. You know, most United States Department of Agriculture inspectors do not eat chicken. And if you get to know those birds, it really is such a tragedy. When someone says to me, I don't eat red meat,